Hi everyone, this is Anson from AnsonAlex.com, and thanks for tuning in to part 5 of my 2013 video series on using Gmail. I'm not going to go over everything included in parts 1 through 4, but if you're interested in those and you haven't seen them yet, they're linked in the description here on YouTube of this video, so go ahead and check those out. But part 5 is going to be all about Gmail settings. I'm going to take you through all of Gmail settings, explain what they're for, and for some of the more advanced settings, I'll actually go into detail of how to use them. So this is probably one of the more beneficial tutorials for some people that have already been using Gmail and aren't brand new to Gmail that I will be releasing in this series. There's going to be a lot of good stuff in this video. So I hope it helps and enjoy. In order to configure our Gmail settings, the first thing we need to do is actually access our settings. To do that, you can go to the top right corner of your screen and click on this gear icon that says Settings. Be careful not to click too high up and you'll actually go to your Google account settings and not your Gmail specific settings. So I'm going to click on the gear icon and then go ahead and click on Settings again. Now, when you get into the Gmail settings, you'll notice that across the top there are multiple sections based on topics. So I'm going to take you through each one of these sections, and like I said, I'm going to quickly describe almost everything, and I'm going to go into some detail about the more advanced settings here in Gmail. So, language, you can set your language, self-explanatory. Phone numbers, if you're going to be using Google Voice and making phone calls out of Gmail, you can set your default country code. Maximum page size. You can choose the amount of emails that you want to display on a single page. So by default, it's 50. I like to do 100. I like to see as many emails as possible. I'll tell you what, I don't usually have 100 emails in my inbox or anywhere in Gmail, but that's up to you, so you can choose whichever one you like. Same with contacts. External content. So Gmail has a list of known senders that are trusted senders. These are going to be big companies that send a lot of emails. You can choose to always display their images in those emails from those senders because by default in Gmail, as we talked about earlier in this video series, images are blocked at first until you hit that Show Images button because they could have some viruses and that sort of thing. So by default, it will trust external content from trusted senders. Browser connection, always use HTTPS or don't always use HTTPS. Well, I'll tell you, you're not going to always be able to use it depending on the network that you're on, the firewall, but if you can use HTTPS, it is a much safer way to use your Gmail account. It makes sure that your emails are encrypted and they're just harder to get a hold of if a hacker wants to. So you can try that out, and if it's not working well for you, you can always turn it off again. Default reply behavior. So if you have an email that was sent to you and other people, if you hit reply, by default, do you want to just reply to the sender or do you want to reply to all the people involved in the conversation? I tend to choose just reply because I don't want to accidentally send an email to a whole bunch of people that was only intended for one person. That could have some bad consequences. Default text style. So how do you want the text to show up when you are composing an email? You can change the text size, the font, the color, whatever you want to do there. Conversation view. This is a feature that a lot of you are probably looking for. And let me go ahead and let me open up a new Gmail window here so that you can see what I mean. We can stay in the settings over here, and over here we're going to look at our email. You'll notice if I go to my all mail folder, I have this one email where it says to next to it. And what this is actually a conversation that's gone back and forth. And in this case, there's only 2 emails in there. So if I click it, you can see here's the latest email, but I can also see the email that was sent prior to this secondary email, and they're threaded together, they're linked together. I like to use my email like this, but a lot of you coming from Outlook are used to having each of these emails be completely separate. So if you like that, you can go ahead and turn conversation view off, and those emails will not show up threaded together anymore. But be careful not to lose them because it's a lot easier to lose emails that way. Just saying. Anyways, on to the next one. Send and archive. This is the option that you can put a button at the bottom of your email when you are replying to somebody. Instead of just sending your reply, it's going to send your reply and it's going to archive their email. So it's going to take their email out of your inbox and just leave it in your all mail folder. I don't like to do that because I don't like to remove emails from my inbox by mistake. It could happen, so that's up to you. You have your option there. this stars section. Earlier in this video series, I talked about quickly marking an email with a star. I didn't really go into detail about it, but you can actually customize your stars and you can use multiple stars. So I can drag other stars up here that I'd like to use. I could also just hit all stars or 4 stars, whatever you want to do. And then what happens is, let's use 4 stars for this example. What happens is if I go and save this down here at the bottom and go back into my email, whoops, I guess it went back over here, but that's okay. And I hit this star button. I got to refresh this page. And I hit the star button. You'll notice the first one is yellow, but then it's going to go to my other stars. So you can have different options when starring emails. I know a lot of people that love this feature. I personally don't use it. I use labels a heck of a lot more, but that is up to you. You can always do that. We can go back into my settings here now. And we'll go down. So we just talked about the stars feature. Desktop notifications for chat and email. If you're not in your browser, whether it's Google Chrome or Internet Explorer or Firefox, whatever you use, and you want to get notified when you have a new chat message or email, you can configure that down here. I definitely like the chat notifications because those are usually real time. The person's looking for a quick answer. Email, that's up to you. I get notified on my phone, so I don't necessarily need it in here, but you might. Keyboard shortcuts. This is for the actual Gmail specific keyboard shortcuts, which I don't use too much. Your bold, italics, underline is all going to work anyways, even with this off. So that's really up to you whether you want to turn that on or off. You might want to do a quick Google search on what the Google Gmail keyboard shortcuts are. Button labels. This is a cool feature for some of you that are new to Gmail because by default, if I look at my email, the buttons at the top are all symbols. And of course, when you mouse over them, the text pops up as to what that button is. But if you're brand new to Gmail and you're not used to these buttons yet, you can actually choose to display them as text. And if we save our changes and we look at the symbols, they'll no longer be symbols, they're text. So it's a little bit easier to understand, like I said, especially for those of you new to Gmail. Going back into our settings here. We just talked about button labels. If you want to add a picture, this will be a picture that will be visible to people that you send email to. That's up to you. At some point, you probably do want to have a picture. It's nice. It's 2013. People are doing that now. If you can email from me, you'll see my picture. It's just kind of how it works. The people widget, that's this widget down here at the bottom. It's going to automatically add people as you communicate with them. And if they have a Gmail account, or if it is a Gmail account that they're using, you could chat with them, video chat, and that sort of thing. So you can decide whether you want this widget to show up or not. Create contacts for autocomplete. So I mentioned earlier in this video series that when you send an email to somebody, Google automatically adds that email address to your contacts list as in the other contacts group. It's a group within your contacts. So that when you go to type that email address again, it auto-completes it for you. You don't have to remember the whole email address. Well, if you don't like that and you just want to manually add your contacts, you can choose to I'll add contacts myself, and it will no longer save email addresses for you.
There is a place where lectures have a set time and location, where
for you. Scrolling down, the next section is probably what a lot of you are looking for. This is the signature section, so you could go ahead and add an email signature. I'll just add ansonalex.com. It's a cool website. Check it out. And then you're going to have to hit save at the bottom. You can also, some of these other settings aren't really that important. Personal level indicators. So you can see if an email is personal or not, if it's sent to just you or sent to a mailing list. I've never really used that feature too much. Snippets, don't worry about that. And the vacation responder, I personally hate this feature. I think it's annoying, but if you do like to use vacation responders, I'm not going to judge. Here's where you can do it. And then outgoing message encoding, don't worry about that. That's kind of an advanced feature that you're not going to have to use. Moving on to the next section, which is labels. We talked about labels earlier in this video series. This is kind of the back end of where you can manage all of your labels. So we actually drag all mail, spam, and trash up to the top earlier by going down here to more and dragging them up. We did this earlier in the video series. And another way to do that would just be to go ahead and show chats here, and it comes up here, or you could hide it. Kind of a cool feature is this show if unread feature. So if you hit that feature right now, drafts isn't being displayed up here at the top. However, if I had an unread draft, it would pop up to the top. Same with spam. So that's just some additional features for your labels. You can also customize your personal labels down here at the bottom. You can remove them and edit them, rename them as well here in your settings. Moving on to the inbox section. Now, this is a section that I encourage some of you to play around with. I could create a whole video tutorial just on this section. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments and I'll try and get it in before the end of this video series. But basically, by default with your inbox, all of your emails are going to be listed as the latest one you received on top. That's the classic inbox. However, Gmail allows you to choose some other types of inboxes. You can do important first, unread first, starred first, and a priority inbox, which is basically a mix and match of all the other ones. And I'm not going to show you all of them, but I do want to show you the unread first because that's the one that I tend to use. So you can see when I click that, it creates this section called Inbox Sections, and it's telling me that my inbox is going to be split into two sections, one that is unread and two that is everything else. So if I guess that is already saved. So now if we go to my inbox, and you can see now I have two sections in my inbox, unread and everything else. As soon as I read this email, boom, then I have to refresh my browser. You'll see that it moves into the everything else section. So if I get an unread email, it'll go back into the unread section. I like to do that to separate my emails so I can tell which ones are new and important and that I haven't read yet. So there's some other settings in here that you can configure to go along with this. Like I said, I would definitely recommend playing around with this, try important first if you use the important feature, or starred first if you use that starred feature. Definitely up to you. So take a look at that section. Moving on to the accounts and import section. This is where you can configure other email accounts to send emails to your Gmail account. So if you've got an old Outlook account and you want emails from your Outlook account forwarded over to Gmail, you can go ahead and you could go down here to add a POP3 account that you own. Now, you will need to get certain information from whatever email account that is. You'll need to get the SMTP server and the POP3 or IMAP server. So I would basically follow the instructions that email system has for forwarding emails. But when you come into Gmail to actually set it up in here, this is where you can do it. If you want to send mail as another email address you own, you can go ahead and add that email address. It's going to send a confirmation to that other email address as soon as you confirm. You will then be able to send emails out of your Gmail account, and it will, when you go to send an email, you'll be able to choose which email address you're sending from. You could import your Yahoo, Hotmail, AOL, or contacts and mail from another POP3 account. So this is where you can do all of that sort of configuration. You can also grant access to your account. So if you want somebody else to be able to read and view your emails, you can go ahead and add them as having access to your account. They do have to have a Gmail account. It has to be a Gmail account that you're granting access to. You can buy storage. That's Gmail's way of making money, or one of their ways. Anyways, moving on to filters. We talked about filters earlier in this video series. This is where you can see all of the filters you've created and you can edit them from right here. I'm not going to go over this because it's already been covered, so check out that video if you missed it. Moving on to forwarding, POP, and IMAP. So when we talked about this accounts and import section, that was where we go if we want to bring other accounts into Gmail. If we want to send Gmail to other accounts, if we have an Outlook account and we want our Gmail messages forwarded to that Outlook account, we have to come in here and we have to enable either POP or IMAP, depending on which one you're going to use. Again, follow the instructions provided for you with that account, and then you can go ahead and you can look at Gmail's configuration instructions, and it should tell you Gmail's SMTP and IMAP servers once you go through this wizard here. So we're not going to do that right now, but that's definitely the place that you want to be if you're looking to do that. Chat, these are your chat settings. So I am probably going to produce a video in this series specifically dedicated to chatting in Gmail. But if you want to configure the settings for that, you can actually turn chat on or off. You can have Gmail save your chat history. In fact, by default, it does. A lot of people don't like that. So if you don't like that, you can go ahead and choose never to save chat history. Auto add suggested contacts. So if you don't like people automatically being added to this list down here based on the people that you're in most contact with, you can go and turn that off and choose only allow people that I've explicitly approved. Calling phones, whether or not you want to be able to call phones, it's a pretty cool feature. I would recommend to keep it enabled. You can see right here I have the phone symbol. I can click on it and and it's going to take me through this little wizard, but I can make phone calls. So pretty cool. Again, that will be in a future video in this series. You get to choose which microphones and cameras and speakers that you're using here for your Gmail voice and video chat, and sounds and emotions. Those are kind of self-explanatory. You can configure those settings. Web clips, don't worry about this. This is a feature that Google still has, although nobody uses it, so you don't even have to worry about that. Labs. I'm going to provide a video entirely dedicated to labs in this series, so I'm not going to go through this right now, but basically what they are is they are add-on features you can add to your Gmail account. Most of them are experimental, so they don't always work great, but a lot of them do work really well. I enable a lot of labs in my personal Gmail account, so stay tuned for that video coming up in the series. If you want to use Gmail offline, I've never done that. You can go ahead and try and install it. I think it kind of defeats the purpose of using Gmail when you have to install software on your computer. I prefer using Gmail in the cloud in a browser from any computer or device, smartphone device, tablet in the world, with the exception of certain parts of China maybe. But that's up to you. And then themes, I briefly mentioned this earlier in the video series. This is where you can change the theme for your Gmail account. So if you like blue instead of this light theme, you can click it and it will change your account blue. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you haven't seen the other videos in this series, I would really recommend checking them out. They're all linked in the description below. And again, I've got a few more videos coming up, probably about 3 or 4 more for this Gmail 2013 video series. If you want to see them or more technology tips and tutorials, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's all I have for you today, everyone. It's Anson from AnsonAlex.com.